Welcome to the Fairy Cast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we're joined by Francesco Hayes, a serial entrepreneur, CTO, and founder of Luxera, who has built multiple ventures while excelling as a full stack developer and tech leader. Francesco brings a unique perspective as someone who has successfully managed web development agencies, real estate investments, and now a healthcare technology platform, all while maintaining his technical roots as a hands-on developer. His work spans from creating scalable web architectures to building Luxera, which connects patients with affordable, high-quality medical care abroad through innovative technology. So, Francesco, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ezekiel. It's a pleasure to be on. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. So, firstly, can you tell us about Luxera? Hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah,
What problems you are solving in healthcare with it, and what's the tech behind it looks like?
yeah, of course. So Luxera, we're a platform where we allow users to be able to sign on, fill out some information, and based upon that information that we gather, we then recommend clinics based upon different procedures that they're interested in. Right now, obviously, depending on where you're at, healthcare can be relatively expensive. At least here out where I'm located in the US, healthcare can be pretty expensive, especially when you're dealing with procedures that aren't necessarily covered by insurances, which is where Luxera is starting out right now. So we're focused on cosmetic-based procedures such as like hair transplants, Botox, neck lifts, stuff like that. And it can get very expensive over here in the States. So unless like it's, the cause of like a medical emergency, insurances won't cover that. So for example, like a hair transplant here in the States can run you around $60,000. But over in like Turkey or Greece or some of these other countries, you can get treated by some of the top surgeons, if not the top clinics in the world, for $10,000 at most, if anything, and that's including room and board and aftercare, all of that. And so we saw this problem, and we're just like, all right, clearly, like it doesn't have to be this way. There are a bunch of other nuances that and difficulties that come with getting these type of procedures, in the US or in the UK, wherever you're at. And there are these excellent surgeons who are in these other countries, and it's become more common for people to find, you know, healthcare tourism has started to kind of take hold on TikTok and Instagram, where people are traveling for their healthcare. However, there's no real solid, I guess, solution or product out there right now that helps streamline it, kind of like what Airbnb and Uber are doing for this industry. And so we decided to take that upon ourselves in creating that product and helping, educate the user or whoever it may be in the sense of like, whether this is something for them, because there are obviously a lot of challenges and different things that can pop up, and whether the procedure is necessarily something that they even need and or want, because it can be a very cannibalistic market out there. And so we're hoping just to educate the user in the end.
Amazing. So, tell us, how does your engineering background as a developer shape the way you approach building a company like Luxera?
Yeah, I mean, being someone who started at an agency and worked in an agency, and I've worked at other different tech companies, but particularly with having a more so core background with running an agency, you learn that every like product and every company is going to vary based upon how you go about solving that problem. And so I'd say, through that, I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to be involved within a lot of startups and a lot of different products that have allowed me to be able to see different ways of going about starting something. I guess being involved with a startup and creating a product on both the bad and the good side of it all. And through that, it's definitely helped position myself on seeing like, okay, this is what has gone wrong in all these other startups. So how can I avoid it? And, looking back, okay, let's implement these different things. Let's make sure we have like a solid foundation. Let's make sure we're not like incurring any tech debt. Let's make sure like we're, setting the right systems up for like onboarding developers, make sure we're using the correct technologies that'll make it easier, different stuff like that. And been taking that and then implementing it here into Luxera.
Great. So, you started and ran businesses while you were still in college. What piece of advice would you have for students who want to build something today?
Yeah, so find my biggest thing with any developer that kind of comes to me and or whether student or even non-student, and it's all the same in this regard, is to find something that you're passionate about, find something that you enjoy and that you'd love to build, even if it's already built. It doesn't matter. Just, find it and build it, because the knowledge and experience that you'll gain from that will be priceless. And it'll help almost be able to springboard you into the world into, tech, whether it be on the software side or the program management side, whatever it may be. Just building a product just creates, or just building anything. It doesn't even never necessarily have to be a product. Just building a tool or something that you can see yourself using and or are passionate about really helps set you up to see the grand scheme of things and position yourself correctly. Now, when it comes to students, obviously, you're having time. Time is like the other resource that can be an issue when it comes to building things, because, I found plenty of students and fellow students of my, that I, friends and such, where they'll be caught up in, oh, like my classes aren't worth it. Like I just need to, I need to drop out, or I just need to work on this product, and this is going to make it big. And you know, that that can be true to an extent, but like obviously still want to be able to time manage your courses. And so I think it's very important that you find that balance to not discrediting your coursework, but also still feeding in the time needed that it takes to build something that you want and enjoy. And finding different ways to apply that within your coursework is something that definitely helped me. And, talking with my professors and stuff, all very beneficial things. Um, yeah.
Well, that was a really wonderful piece of advice, Francesco. So tell us, um, as a developer, how do you feel about AI? Is it a tool, a threat, or something entirely different for coders?
Yeah. So when I first heard about AI, we have this bias being, or at least I'm aware of this bias that I have towards it being that, this is my industry. I love coding. And so when I see something that's almost taking something away that I love, or at least is being portrayed as taking away something that I love, I can be on the defensive side. And that's kind of where I was in the beginning. I saw AI, I was like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Like, it's not even going to help. It's not going to be benefit us in any way, whatever it may be, whatever the excuse might be. It opens up security things, whatever it is. But I think part of that mindset came from the hype that followed it. And as we all know, hype and trends are not necessary, and trendiness is not necessarily where the industry is going to go, and to take those things with a grain of salt. But as like, but then there's this side. It's just like, well, this is clearly technology that's being adopted, so I can either adopt it myself or be left behind. And I found that like adopting it has been a very beneficial thing, but it's very much a tool. And I think that's something that people need to understand is like, this isn't a replacement. This is a tool. I've spoken with some fellow colleagues of mine. Some work as AI consultants for like HubSpot, um, Amazon Web Services. And the one thing that they have to educate, whether it's the developers or the non-technical individuals, is that this is not a replacement. This is a tool. And it can only truly excel if you still know your stuff, per se. So for developers, especially, like the whole vibe coding thing, it's just like, oh, I can throw together this app, I can build this app. That's great. But you still have to have some form of an understanding of how, building software works, especially if you're building something to grow at scale and or for a real life product. I think just like recently, MIT came out that like 95% of AI built products fail. What the causes, whether it be security, just like not used. I don't know. It varies, but a lot of them fail. And I think part of that is just like we can't necessarily cripple ourselves to it. So in a nutshell, my stance is like it's a very powerful tool, and I think all developers should use it if they can, because there are obviously different industries that can't, such as like different workforces due to privacy and security that can't use AI. But if your industry enables you and allows you to be able to use AI, then I say by all means use it, help it, because it can improve your efficiency as a developer. But don't become handicapped to it in the sense where you yourself are also losing your ability to be able to develop software.
Amazing. So, tell us, what do you think are the struggles of learning to code today in the day and age of AI?
Yeah, so I can give you an example actually when it came to hiring developers for Luxera. So we have a recruiter that will go out and find us a bunch of developers. We'll then go through an interview process. Normally, my first interview with them is just getting to know them, seeing where they're at, and then prompting them with just a standard tech question, just something that anyone can solve, uh, maybe something a little algorithmic. And then a second interview, they will meet with the team, and then a third, if there's any ties on who we're wanting or who we see, then we'll do a more realistic question, such as like building out a piece that would be used in a real product. And one of the issues that I ran into, even after successfully going through successfully like getting through the interview process and hiring, I found that developers relied too much on AI. And that's where I was kind of going on before, where AI is very powerful and you should use it, but you shouldn't cripple yourself to it in the sense of like, we have these developers who are joining Luxera on an existing code base, a very large code base. This is a multi-vendor platform where we're running both clinic software and user software and also marketing side all within one. And so the code base is very vast. And so when you have these developers, they'll come in and they'll just start using AI on an existing code base, a code base that they don't necessarily completely understand. And I would review these tickets and I would review their code, and I just have to tell them, it's like, you can tell when it's AI generated too. It's just like, it's almost like it's not, it's a context issue, right? It's not even taking the full context of the code base. And also it just doesn't look necessarily humanly written in the sense it's not very readable per se, and maybe you can make it more readable, but it would break things. And so when it comes to like being a difficulty within today's world, it's educating developers on when's the appropriate time to use AI and how to use it. Because like you can use it in this fast code base, but you have to understand the code base before you can just start plugging in AI and asking it to help solve different tickets for you. Because, you know, in all honesty, I can I can feed it prompts. I can do that too. I can tell it what to do. That's not why we're hiring you as a developer. We're hiring you because you have that extra skill set to be able to then go through what the AI might produce and be able to solve it and further refine it to where it's actually something production worthy. And so that's something that, I've encountered, at least with Luxera, with bringing on developers in today's AI world, is educating them in that sense. Like, yes, use it, but make sure you're aware of what's being given to you and you're aware of the code base, because, you know, we still need you as a developer.
Tell us, Francesco, you manage multiple ventures. So, what's the practical habits that keeps you productive and sane while managing these ventures, all while avoiding burnout?
Yeah. So, I mean, it comes back to just doing what you enjoy, right? So, I enjoy doing development and I enjoy my other ventures regarding real estate, whatever it might be. And that is really what helps overcome this sense of burnout. The other part is just like, as someone who's self-employed, as someone who isn't, coming, having necessarily someone write my paycheck, I have to do it. If I don't do it, then, you know, I'll lose my house. I'll lose like my business. The other part too is like there are other individuals who are now relying on me now that I have employees. So if I'm not doing my part, then they'll lose whatever they might be having. So it's a sense of just like perspective and understanding that, obviously doing what you enjoy, but then also like there are bigger things at play here, and you have to take on those responsibilities. Now, outside of that, that can get you but so far, right? Because in reality, burnout will come up, and no matter how hard the push may be, we can still falter. And so there are some things and tricks that I've come up with, part of which being, just making sure to take time for myself, giving myself a cutoff on different ventures. So like, waking up, doing my routine, creating some form of routine, and then having like a cutoff time for whatever it may be. So like one day I might like have a cutoff time for coding at like 3 p.m. And then for the next 2 hours, I might do stuff regarding my other ventures with real estate, personal project, or whatever it might be. But setting yourself a cutoff time and creating those blocks, allowing you to then be able to delegate time to other things with whatever it may be. I don't know if you enjoy playing video games or if you enjoy like going running or just, traveling, just making time for the things that you enjoy and understanding that it's okay. You don't have to be on this constant grind.
Wonderful. So, tell us, what are some of the struggles that come with managing multiple businesses?
I'd probably say it comes down to, obviously resource management, right? And then time, making sure that each gets their adequate amount of time and resources given to them. So Luxera, it's more of a full-time project, so that's getting significantly more of my time. Real estate's more on the side. What really helps it though is like when I take on a new project or with real estate, for example, like a lot of it I've automated. So, with managing bills, it's automated. With managing tenants, it's automated. With finding real estate, I have it automated through AI. One of the benefits of AI is you can automate a lot of this stuff and nuances. And then that allows me to then give more of my time to areas where it might not be as easy to automate. And so part of that is what I've done to help me to be able to, per se, stretch myself to be able to be within different ventures. And, for example, there's still moments when I have to say no because I'm too stretched thin. And that goes back to being on burnout, knowing where your limit is. And we don't really necessarily know our limit until we reach the breaking point, per se, but you'll know. And you just got to take note of that. And that's something you can work on and push, or you can just settle with. But for example, like literally the other day, I had to turn down an investment opportunity for some real estate property and setting up some lots and getting things built. And it was a great deal. It would have been successful, but I just wouldn't have the time that it was required to be involved within that deal and or for it to be fair for me to be even involved for the rest of the partners within that deal. And so I had to say no. And that's part of something that you have to be aware of, especially when you're doing these ventures. You're going to be saying no a lot to a lot of different things, but you still got to keep that door open for when the time does fit and align right.
So, why did you choose to start your own businesses instead of working for big tech companies?
Part of it was I couldn't get a job. So
Wow.
I, yeah. So, I mean, I'm just this kid. I just got done traveling and living on my own for the first time. I come back and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, what I enjoy. It's like, well, I enjoy art and, the beauty in different things, but I also enjoy tech. And so that led me to be like, all right, well, that's web development or like that's web design. And so I decided I was like, all right, well, that means I have to learn how to code. And before, for the longest time, I thought I was just too dumb to learn how to code. And it then actually did it, and I realized, oh, okay. Just like with most things, they seem hard, but like you don't know until you try. And that's really my biggest motto is like you don't know until you try. You can do research and development and different things to figure out whether it's worth trying, from a business perspective. But when it comes to like just living life, you don't know until you try. And so I started to learn how to code, and I was like, wow, I really love this. I really enjoy this. I can do this. However, no one was going to hire me when, at least not like, I wasn't able to go to like Amazon or any of these other big tech companies and just get a job just because I completed a Udemy course or some course online. So I was like, well, I that being in big tech doesn't necessarily fit the way I want to live. So let's start my own business. And so I started my own business, built out the website, started networking within and with private connections, so friends, family, stuff like that. Got my first set of clients, and then it snowballs from there to where they start referring you, and you just get better and better at doing it. And through such, I've learned a lot with what it takes to build a product and all these different things. And I'm asked all the time, it's like, why don't you go and work at one of these big tech companies or whatever? And I'm just like, well, like I love what I'm doing now, and I'm able to say that, I'm building something that's mine, and it enables me to be able to have this freedom that I necessarily wouldn't have at maybe another company. So yeah, that's probably why why I didn't go.
Well, that was a wonderful backstory. So, tell us, how do you balance scalable tech architecture with the need to move fast and iterate your product as a startup?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. That's something that I've had to learn a lot, especially with Luxera being more hands-on versus coming in as a contractor. You know, there's this fine line when it comes to building software, especially for a startup. You start off with your MVP, which is your minimal viable product. Everyone's very familiar with it. It's pretty much the bare bones of what it takes to go to market. And when it comes to developing software that is scalable, but still efficiently, you really have to have a controlled list of features. And any other ideas, any other feedback, anything else that comes is post MVP. And you just have to close off that wall. And so now, when it comes to building something scalable, you know, you still take things into consideration. So there are two different ways to go in about an MVP that I found. There are those who develop it, which just like, all right, quick, doesn't matter what we use, just whatever's quickest. Go to market, go. We can clean it up later. And then there are those who just do like almost the over engineering side, and a lot of times they don't really make it to market. But then there's this in between that I found with different products and projects that I've been a part of, where they still use the tools that help them effectively get there, but they set them up in a way that allows them to be able to pivot and transition when needed. So, for example, like, this is one of the reasons why a Supabase, which is a SaaS product for developers, is very popular. I mean, it offering real-time database, authentication, a bunch of different things in one. But what's really nice is that it's a Postgres database. And so if you ever want to move off of their platform into your own database and or start scaling to your own solutions, you can easily do that. You can switch over. But if I went another route, let's say I used some other tool that's very much just like ties you in and doesn't allow you to leave, that can create a problem. It can create issues with scaling and a lot of headache later on down the line. And so with Luxera, we've done some, you know, we're working with software that's very much open source and has the ability to be able to pivot where needed and can take in different, um, implement different features without sacrificing, you know, the important things that you should never skip over, such as like security and, different standard practices that you should be implementing as you're building out a product just for usability with onboarding developers and stuff like that. Things which people might be like, oh, that takes too long, no reason to set up a nice organized file structure, but it's just like, you might as well do it right from the beginning. There's no reason to have a messy folder structure or anything like that, especially being that it only takes you a second or two longer just to build it out. And if you do it by default, it becomes second nature kind of deal.
Great. So, what's one thing you believe that early career developers should learn that isn't really taught in school?
Ooh, that's a good question. At least when I was in school, and obviously it varies by your professor and whoever you may be, from a development standpoint, wherever you're learning from. But there are probably two or three things that I would say are a must to do that aren't necessarily commonly taught. And one is to build your own things, build your own projects, find something that you love and enjoy, or just want to figure out how it works and just build it and do it. And it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be great, but you're going to learn so much from that, and that it's going to put you well above anyone else who's just going to class and just going through the motions. Two, ensuring that you're passionate about this. Computer science is like, people see it's like, oh, you can make a lot of money. But that doesn't matter if you don't enjoy what you're doing, just like with any field. And so, what you might not learn in school is like, and you can't really learn this in school because this is something that you have to learn for yourself. Is like, is this something I enjoy? Is this something that I'll be able to do and be, that I can be passionate about and love? Because it can be boring for a lot of people and not necessarily motivating to continue to work, because then you'll just plateau. You'll be one of the many developers who might get a job, but like they'll be stagnant. The kind of developers who are going to lose their job from AI, if I will be frank.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how do you stay creative and keep generating new ideas, novel ideas for your products, or while also running the day-to-day of your companies?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to being creative, it really just comes down to being involved within the space, seeing what's being done, always trying to innovate, really just pushing yourself to not necessarily find the norm, whether that can be considered just hard-headed or naive. I found though that it's helped benefit me in finding creativity in the things that I do. So, you know, I guess swimming against the current in certain cases. And, through that I've learned different aspects. Like there have been some things that like, oh, this is just how you do it as a developer. Like this is how you just build, certain features or integrations. And I'm just like, but why? Why does it have to be like that? And so I'll start like forcing myself to go against it and figuring out why. And through that, I might find another solution that is better. Who knows? Like there have been two that I found that have been great regarding authentication, and I've been able to help others by being like, hey, it doesn't have to be done this way, and just updating the docs and whatever, and just showing like it can be done this way and it'll be better, or it can be faster, or it's more easy to understand and cleaner. And so, just challenging yourself and staying just proactive within your space. It really helps drive that creativity.
Amazing. So, Francesco, I have one more question for you. So, I normally ask this question to all the guests I interview here on the show. So, tell us, what does innovation mean to you, and how does it relate to your line of work? I mean, across web development, healthcare tech, and real estate.
Yeah, innovation. Um, Something that'll help make the world a better place, I'd say, would be innovation. And I would consider to be innovation. So whether it be, and it doesn't have to be anything grand, you don't have to like come up with the cure for cancer kind of deal, but just like solving a problem is as little as it may be, can compound and help this world be a better place. And by, you know, being aware of that and implementing that into your daily activities and or work will help you be an innovator, if anything.
Finally, tell us, where can listeners find you, or go see your work or connect with you?
Yeah, so they're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have been trying to be way more proactive on X. That's probably my preferred platform, being I'm trying to grow that out and get better at it, which I can go ahead and send you the link for. That way you can include it in the description of the pod. But yeah, I'd say those two.
Well, you could just tell us your X handle and your LinkedIn name. Of course, I'll add the links to the description and the show notes of the
Yeah,
podcast.
so it'll just be my name, Francesco Hayes. For X, it'll be Francesco Hayes with an underscore at the end. So FrancescoHayes, and then underscore.
Amazing, Francesco. It's been a really wonderful conversation with you, and I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Awesome. Thanks. It's been a pleasure, Ezekiel. Thank you for having me.